And he's going to say things that upset our European allies. And he's going to say things that, oh my gosh, it's just, can we just get past that? We know that that's coming. Now, I know many of you know this. But it's the constant sky is falling. It's just like, grow up already. How much longer does this stuff have to happen before you realize this is how Trump operates? And your response and behavior to it doesn't change that. It doesn't change it any more than, go out and protest, and we'll talk about, in Springfield, Central High, the students really made a huge difference, a huge impact, walking out of school for a approved assembly by the school to protest against Trump policies. Of course, when it comes to immigration, and, they'll always support free speech. Can we please get some pro-life students to do a walkout in the name of unborn babies that are killed, and see if the Springfield School District holds the same line that they did when it came to gun control walkouts, when it comes to immigration enforcement walkouts, in which they're like, hey, this isn't about whether we support the cause. No. This is simply about supporting the right of free speech. Because this is what the stage has been said on numerous occasions. Because they, quote, recognize free speech, you can walk out of school over any issue you want. Just walk out. They can't deny you. How can they deny you when they say it's not about the issue that they're supporting? No. This is just about free speech. And we support the right of this. Oh, okay. Let's put that to the test. I understand the instinct of individuals, particularly students that are more conservative. They are traditionally going to be from a respectful family that is about being respectful of authority, and you're in school to learn, not to cosplay Greta Thunberg. And so it makes it less likely that conservative students are going to want to have some sort of walkout for, the right to life movement or the Second Amendment or protection of Christians as increasingly they come under attack. How about a walkout supporting Christian churches from left-wingers storming the church during service? How about a walkout for that? I understand that left-wing students are generally, probably not that good of a student anyway, just any reason to want to get out of class, irresponsible, and so they're much more likely to do that sort of thing. But it would be nice to see normal students with their level head on their shoulders and those that are more conservative and Christian to just frankly call the school out on their total BS, because we know this crap that they shovel out about, these walkouts that have occurred that they have approved, or in this case, apparently even helped coordinate. And the level of dishonesty of portraying it as not being, hey, whatever the issue is, we'll support it because it's all just about free speech. We know that's crap. How about a walkout for traditional marriage? Oh, are they going to stand up, or suddenly we'll find the boundaries of their free speech support? Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447 KSGF. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see partly sunny skies with a high near 47. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 22. For your Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 46. And taking a look at Friday, mostly cloudy with a high near 24.
Well, Vice President J.D. Vance, Second Lady Usha announcing they're expecting their fourth child.
I heard a baby boy.
Yes.
So I guess they're not getting a divorce.
I know, poor Erica Kirk.
What's she gonna do?
You know, because the left really had that one figured out. In fact, the baby is slated to be born in July, which means that they probably conceived the child around the time we were told that they were supposed to be getting a divorce because of Erica Kirk touched the back of his head that time they hugged.
Yep.
The brilliant analysis of the left. Well, this was probably done in order to prove that they're not getting divorced. See, I'm sure that's what it is. That'll be the Blue Anon conspiracy of the day. I wanted to share this story about a detention facility in the Netherlands, and this is just so perfect for a number of reasons. And it's also an unfortunate reality of the toxic relationship the left has with people they claim they support, yet what they do is they create such fear, as sociopaths oftentimes do. They create such fear amongst the categories of people they claim that they care about that they cause those individuals to make irrational decisions that result in a lower quality of life. And the LGBT community is one of those categories. they run around, and this is crazy. I mean, this is a toxic relationship. They convince people in the LGBT community that the worst place possibly to be is the United States, that their life is in danger. I mean, I remember after Trump got elected the second time, as if we never saw what he was like as president the first time, and there were stories about people in the LGBT community going out and buying guns because they just knew, because, all of these organizations and the Democrats who claim they care about him had him convinced they were going to be run down in the streets and beaten by MAGA hat-wearing psychopaths. Never mind that didn't happen during the first time. Never mind it could never even be found to have occurred. The one high-profile case was Jussie Smollett, and that was made up. You think about that. A black, high-profile homosexual could not find... you find an actual real situation of discrimination. He had to pay people to pretend as if they were Trump supporters that assaulted him at 3 a.m. in Chicago or whatever time it was when he went to get a sandwich. This is what psychopaths do. They get in relationships and then they convince the person they're in a relationship with how horrible life will be without them, that everyone is out to get them. They alienate them from their own family members, from their friends. That is what the left does with these different groups of people. Now let's talk about the real-life results of that. Americans who fled to the Netherlands in a bid to escape the Trump administration are now living in filthy refugee camps, it has emerged. According to Dutch immigration authorities, 76 U.S. citizens claimed asylum in the country last year, a significant increase from the 9 that did in 2024. Many of those who have left are transgender or parents to transgender children and are housed in the, quote, queer block of an overcrowded camp in the northern village of Ter Apel, The Guardian reported. The camp, which resembles a prison, has guards stationed at every gate and offers less than desirable amenities. Residents have complained that the tiny college dorm-like rooms they are provided are covered in graffiti, with many alleging that they suspect bodily fluids have been smeared on the walls. Asylum seekers are permitted to leave the camps, but must be present for daily bed checks. They are also given a small allowance so they can purchase food and cook meals in the communal kitchen. Many of the American refugees are transgender and are seeking asylum after allegedly being victims of hostility and discrimination in their home states. But the Dutch Ministry of Asylum and Migration has so far deemed that the alleged mistreatment of the LGBT community in the U.S. is not grounds for refugee status, according to The World. And let me tell you why. Because it doesn't happen on the scale or in the manner in which so often they claim or they're told it's going to occur. You had elected Democrats telling people in the LGBT community if Trump got reelected, they would be put in concentration camps. When you as a person of authority are on television or on podcast and you are putting out that message to people who generally already have mental and emotional issues, they will oftentimes believe you. And there are real-life... I know for the left, it's all politics. It's just about getting votes. We got to get out the votes. We have to scare them. We have to make them think they'll go to prison. We have to convince them they're going to be murdered in the streets. We have to convince them Trump will put them into concentration camps. They don't care about the real life, emotional or physical impact it has on those people that believe the lies. And in this case, and I'm sure this has happened in other countries as well, you have, dozens of them going to the Netherlands to escape what they thought was going to be this hellish nightmare in the United States. And instead they are in these squalid conditions with prison-like rules that they have to abide by. And they're stuck there. They can't get asylum because the Netherlands are like, no, that's not what asylum is. You not getting a free sex change operation at 12 years old does not mean that your life is in danger and you need political asylum. San Diego resident Jane Michelle Ark, 47, moved to the Netherlands in April after having been hospitalized for assault, she claims. She alleged that she was getting punched or pushed or shoved every single week walking the city streets. Now, I'm going to share these stories with you. And there's two things to note. One, I don't believe any of them. Largely because these are individuals, one of which claimed lived in San Francisco, and walking around San Francisco as a transgender every day getting beaten in the streets. First off, no video of that. Secondly, no activists that are out there protesting or marching because of it. You know why? Because it didn't happen. Secondly, as I read the stories to you, whatever stupid pronouns they have printed, I'm just going to read them because it becomes so confusing when you try to be actually accurate that I can't keep track. So I'm just explaining that now. Ash Wild, 40, fled Massachusetts after claiming to be physically and verbally attacked in her community of Massachusetts. She claimed that she was dubbed a pedo and a groomer and applied for asylum in the Netherlands last October. After they arrived in the Netherlands, asylum seekers are sent to an overcrowded refugee camp in the village of Ter Apel, which has been likened to a prison. Immigration officials will assess each asylum application individually and are closely monitoring the situation in the U.S. as it pertains to LGBT people. American asylum seekers have complained about being physically assaulted, verbally attacked, forced out of their jobs, even refused service at local stores and supermarkets due to their gender identities. Again, isn't it remarkable you don't see any videos of this anywhere? Because we know the left loves to make videos of them being victimized. Even when they're not really being victimized, but in their minds they're being victimized. Yet these particular categories of people, we never see these videos. One of the stories here, let's see. Actor and visual artist Veronica Clifford Carlos, 28, flew to Amsterdam in June last year to seek asylum after receiving daily death threats in San Francisco. Well, because clearly San Francisco is Trump country. Nothing gay-friendly or LGBTQ-friendly about that city. That story adds up. Gail Carter Stewart, who moved her transgender teen, Knox, to the country from Montana last April, said their asylum application was automatically rejected because America is considered a safe country of origin. Ashley Wild, 40, who fled Massachusetts, while she admits she comes from one of the most liberal states and a place where officials are working to preserve our identities across the queer spectrum, but said she was still physically and verbally attacked in her community all the time. All the time, out in the public square, floggings. It goes on to tell these stories, but ultimately the point here is you have these people in the LGBT community that have fled to the Netherlands because they've been convinced that the United States is some sort of hellhole for the LGBT community, and the rest of the world, particularly the Europeans, are so enlightened, and then they go over there and they find out that their life is crap over there. They live in prison-like conditions with feces on the wall, and they are allowed to leave every so often, but they have to be there for bed check at the end of the night. They have imprisoned themselves. All because they're running from some fake monster that the left has convinced them exist. That is not compassion. Look at what they've done to these people. They have made people so unnecessarily frightened for their lives that they move across the country and end up in squalor, end up in refugee camps. The irony here is these are the sort of camps that the Democrats convinced them Trump was going to put them in here in the United States if he got elected. And what did they do? Move halfway across the world to end up in one of them. That's the compassion of the left. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. I want a great homeloan.com. That is your starting place for home loans, for refinancing, for reverse mortgages, and having access to the characters in their team with any questions you may have, just reach out. Sometimes you don't feel comfortable doing that when it comes to the big faceless entities because you feel like, first off, you're going to have to sit through a recording and asking what language you want to speak. And then it's going to tell you to listen closely because some of the prompts may have changed since you last called. And then it's going to say, if you want to do this, hit 1, and inevitably you're number 8, and you got to sit through all that. Or by the time you get to 5 or 6, your mind's wandering. You get to the end, you realize, wait a minute, I didn't even hear what half those were. And then you got to start over. And so you don't want to do that. So you start hitting 0 over and over again. That's not how it works with the characters in their team. Go to iwantagreathomeloan.com. They got phone numbers there if you want to reach out to them. You can communicate with them via email. Heck, you can just stop by their office and talk to them face-to-face right here in Springfield and ask any questions you may have. iwantagreathomeloan.com because you do.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see partly sunny skies with a high near 47. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 22. For your Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 46. And taking a look at Friday, mostly cloudy with a high near 24.
If you missed a previous segment, I was sharing a story that was regarding a refugee camp that is in the Netherlands, and it's one of, I'm sure, many countries that have accepted people in the LGBT community from the United States who believed the lies they were told about Trump, and he was going to create these camps for the LGBT community, and ironically, fleeing those camps have put them in those very camps. The Netherlands, they are stuck in these camps. They're these Americans. There's I think 76 of them over there currently, and they say the conditions are deplorable. They are under prison watch. They are allowed to leave, but they under certain conditions, but they have to be back for bed check-in. I'm sure these are the exact same people that would portray the United States immigration policies as something that's deplorable and embarrassing to the country. Yet here they are under watch of armed guards with weapons of war just for being LGBTQ and seeking refuge. And the irony of the fact that these are the style of camps that they thought they were going to be put here in the United States under Donald Trump because Democrats in the media made them believe that. It made me think back to a book that I wanted to recommend, and it's from 2009, so it's been around for some time. And it's called The Forsaken, An American Tragedy in Stalin's Russia. And the book is about Americans who, during the period of Great Depression fears, believed that socialism was the answer. And so, well, they go to Stalin's Russia. And Stalin did what so many socialists do, what Mamdani does and others. They tell you, it's so wonderful. Oh, everyone's equal, and we really stick it to the rich, and you never have to want for anything. And in fact, Stalin even created American baseball over there in order to show, look at us. We can be just as American, to lure Americans over there just for the purpose of public relations, to show, look at this. You have Americans that are coming to the great socialism of Russia under Stalin because it is a much better way of life than freedom and democracy and liberty and a republic and so forth. Well, the rest of the story, of course, is the fact that they end up getting round up. They're put into gulags, they're tortured, they're murdered, and most of them end up with this horrific fate because, socialism. And I think it's just a very enlightening book. It's enlightening because of this repeated pattern of behavior by human beings that are in specifically the United States with the greatest quality of life, but somebody comes along and just demonizes other people who may have been more successful and convinces human beings that, you let us call the shots and we'll make sure everything's taken care of. And it always ends up bad. And Americans aren't the only ones who fall for this. The Venezuelans fell for it. Many people in Cuba fell for it. They talk about the fact, especially Venezuelans, that, hey, we have fallen for this message. America, do not fall for it. And it's just amazing, no matter how many times this scenario plays out. People, the promise of free stuff, the promise of being taken care of, the promise that there's a magical person somewhere that has never really existed that can micromanage everyone's life, and everyone is going to just be wonderfully happy. Everyone's going to get the best education. Everyone's going to have whatever medical care they want. Their diseases will be cured. They'll have all the money that they want, all of the free time they want. Everything's going to be absolutely wonderful. wonderful because there's a magical person who, again, hasn't existed yet, but somewhere that can make all of your dreams come true. Just on the surface, it has the red flags of the biggest scam to ever exist, and we have proof that it's a scam because of the number of places that have fallen for it in this country, the vast numbers of people who have fallen for it, and it just happens over. I mean, look at New York. Look at Democrats in this country today that are out there promoting socialism who have no concept of what it actually does and what it actually means. So the book is called The Forsaken. Sure, get a hold of ABC Books, North Glenstone. If it's still in print, they'll be able to track it down for you. The book, The Forsaken, An American Tragedy in Stalin's Russia. So the first, the introduction of it is that same old bait and switch, socialism is wonderful, come over here, and then they find out how terrible it is, but also just the some of the stories are pretty horrific. What it is that Americans would go through in the gulags and the realization that the United States was actually, for purposes of World War II, collaborating in certain ways with Stalin. And there's some interesting, insightful historical context to it as well. But now, I know most of you understand how this story goes because, again, we've seen it over and over again. And this is why an educated population was always recognized as being so tantamount to a successful republic in this country. And the fact that you have, even, in our Central High School, students walking out against the enforcement of laws passed by Congress, signed by a president, not Donald Trump, shows what an absolute failure that school is in terms of educating. And obviously Central's not the only school. To have any student in any school that doesn't recognize the absolute horrors of socialism, not just historically, but what actually occurs today, shows how depraved our education system is in this country. All one has to do is any time people overwhelmingly have the opportunity to escape or make the opportunity to escape socialist countries, do they go to other socialist countries? Do they say, you know what, there's not quite enough oppression here. I'm going to go from a socialist country, escape to a communist country? No. They come to places like the United States of America. Why do you think that is? That's a question that every student in every school should be forced to answer who claims socialism is a better way of life. Why is it that people from socialist countries have long fled for generations those countries to come to ours? If that's the case. When the Berlin Wall fell, if you've never seen the footage, the flow of people only went one direction. And you can guess which direction that was. So if the book is still in circulation or still in print, like I said, ABC Books in North Glenstone, you can contact Valerie or any of those folks over there, and they can help you determine that. It's called The Forsaken, An American Tragedy in Stalin's Russia. I highly recommend it. Now, this is audio you may have heard. It is from The View yesterday, and on one hand, there's this sense of, yes, we know these people are delusional. But sometimes, this is the thing that always fascinates me. When you have a person that seemingly really believes something happened to them that never happened to them. And you wonder, do they really think this? Pam Grier is an actress, and she, I want to say first became well known in Jackie Brown. And she's probably one of those actresses, if you saw her, you'd be like, oh yeah, I've seen her in some stuff, but you may not necessarily know her name. And she grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and she's on The View. I think she's 50, 60-something years old. I mean, she's not, 200. And she was asked, as a black woman, if she faced a lot of racism growing up in Columbus, because, of course, that's what the left always focuses on. That's their instinct. Let's talk about really bad things that happened to you. Were you ever beaten as a child? Have you ever been raped? Have you been molested? Have you faced racism? Let's take this time to focus on all the horrible negative things. And here was her response.
You faced a lot of racism growing up in Columbus, Ohio. How did that shape you?
Whew. Well, the military wouldn't allow black families to live on the base, so you had to live in an apartment, and you couldn't take a bus. You couldn't afford a car. You walked. Your dads walked to the base, and sometimes we would go from tree shade to get back to the apartment. My brother and I, my mom, with bags, and my mom would go, "Don't look, don't look, don't look," and she'd pull us away. Wow. Because there was someone hanging from a tree. And they have a memorial for it now where you can see where people were and left. And it triggers me today to see that a voice can be silenced. And if a white family supported a black, they're going to get burned down or killed or lynched as well.
Yeah.
All right, now, spoiler, this did not happen. In fact, according to America's Black Holocaust Museum, the last lynching that took place in the state of Ohio was 1911. Pam Grier was born in 1949. And according to America's Black Holocaust Museum, there was never any lynching in Columbus, Ohio, where she claims that they were so prevalent. Walking home from the grocery store, and I don't know whether what she's saying about black families not allowed to live on military, I have no idea whether that's true or not. But claiming that it was so prevalent, seeing people hung from, presumably black people, of course, being lynched, that just walking home from the grocery store, she was told not to look at the trees. Oh, but she caught a glimpse once. No, she didn't. There's a lot of disturbing things about this. One, the reaction of the audience. You could hear, oh. You know there had to be at least one person that's like, wait a minute. I don't know that adds up. The fact that you have, and this is on display every day, these people that ABC presents as a source of information, of reliable information, and they sit there in this information that even if you have just the slightest knowledge of history and lynchings, you know on the surface, I maybe want to double check that because that doesn't sound right, but you never know. But does she actually believe it? Now, she is an actress, and so the, getting choked up, talking about it could all be a performance. But I don't know that it is. These delusional people on the left, and I'm telling you, I know a lot of people don't like to hear it, but it seems as if the delusion is a bit more profound with the female liberal persuasion. Now, she's black, not the white liberal that we have become all too familiar with. But nonetheless, this ability to believe things occurred that never actually occurred. These are mental illnesses. If she actually convinced herself, implanted in her mind false memories of seeing lynchings or the aftermath of lynchings, the black people just left hanging there for everyone to see near a military base that's populated with a lot of black families, mind you. But this is, goes back to some degree the issue talking about earlier, these people in the LGBT community who have believed the lies about the hostile environment Trump was going to create, and so they flee the country only to end up in countries where the hostile environment actually does exist. That Pam Grier could genuinely believe this because she has been so brainwashed in the leftist bubble in this country that that's what this country is, that she has a false memory implanted. Or again, she's just lying and making it up. The reaction many people would have to that suggestion is, yeah, but she would have to know how easily disproven this is when you are in a bubble in which you are never questioned. You lose the ability to recognize that people will check out what you say. And I do always wonder when something like this happens. Does Pam Grier know that people are talking about this? Does Pam Grier know that it is being noted that this did not happen? We know it did not happen for a number of reasons, citing the American Black Holocaust Museum, which probably isn't going to lie about these sort of things. They're not into the world of covering up lynchings, clearly. Or is she so protected from reality in the outside world that she has no clue that this is something that so clearly is proven to be untrue? This is what we're dealing with. And when we talk about the cult-like brainwashing that occurs with people on the left, this is just a demonstration of that. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Native American group vowing Supreme Court fight over woke New York mascot ban. The Native American-backed advocacy group fighting for representation in schools, including Massapequa High School, announced last Wednesday that it is preparing to take its case to the Supreme Court following a lower court dismissal last November. The Native American Guardians Association, NAGA, argued that the New York Board of Regents' 2023 ruling banning the use of Native names and imagery by public schools is discriminatory and violates the 14th Amendment guarantee of equal treatment under the law, saying today we take the next step in our journey to the United States, which is the only logistical fine line. The native name ban laws, the native name ban laws are both offensive and plainly unconstitutional. Their very existence is an embarrassment to all Americans as well as the Native community. I don't even know what brought it up, but we were just jokingly having this conversation the other day, I think at home, about how the left has completely whitewashed people of color off product lines, off teams. And we went through the period of time where you had, Aunt Jemima and I think Uncle Ben. We were going through Lando Lakes, yeah, like all people of color. You would think that suddenly Nazis and white supremacists got in charge, and they're like, let's take only white people from now on can be. That's what the left has done to this country. And you have now some of these organizations, in this case a Native American organization, that is having to go all the way to the Supreme Court to try to undo the racism and discrimination that was implemented by the Democrats. It is crazy how absolutely racist that the Democrat Party is, and manages to still point the finger at someone else. Springfield's Talk 1041, and welcome to the show. My name is Nick Reed. Hey, here's what Kelsey had to say about Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. We have worked with Hunter Hardscapes for over 15 years, both personally and professionally. They've serviced our lawn, treatments, mowing, sprinkles, maintained plants, trees, done several large-scale landscaping projects. Daniel is easy to work with and helps your vision come to life. He can address water drainage issues, add curb appeal, update landscape lighting, or simply maintain your current yard. His crew works hard and is respectful. The work they do doesn't compare when it comes to quality. Highly recommend. And, you know, I talk so much about residential, and again, my outdoor living space, but Kelsey there in her 5-star review lists down a whole number of different things they do, from drainage to lighting to hardscaping to landscaping. You know, you may on an annual or semi-annual basis want things touched up, particularly as spring comes along. If you're a business and you care about that curb appeal, I definitely recommend you reach out and see what they can do for you as well. So whether it is residential or commercial, any and all of those needs to really demonstrate you are a cut above everyone else because you use someone that's a cut above everyone else. Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoors. You can find them at hunterhardscapes.com and Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. Let's see. I'm going to switch things around here. The Clintons were subpoenaed separately to testify behind closed doors, answer questions about Jeffrey Epstein and their knowledge of certain things. Now, whether one believes that Bill Clinton participated in the extracurricular activities that Jeffrey Epstein provided or not, it's unmistakable that he did know him, and he knew him very well. That they were not just acquaintances, they were good friends. In fact, there was we talked a few weeks ago, the revelation that Democrats were saying they can't believe it had been kept secret as long as it did. It was the prince of some country that was getting married, and Hillary couldn't make it, and so Bill Clinton brought Jeffrey Epstein instead, and everyone thought that was kind of weird. Like, why your plus one goes from your wife to this guy? That's weird. If you've seen the picture of Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein wearing these clothings that look like they're, Indian or, that region of the world, that's that wedding that he brought Jeffrey Epstein to. And it was not some massive wedding with thousands and thousands of people. It was relatively intimate. Point being is these people were very good friends. So it makes sense. Even if you didn't do anything wrong, you might have some information. Well, the Clintons are accustomed to not complying with the law. A former FBI Director, Comey, certainly trained them to recognize that you can ignore subpoenas, you can destroy evidence if you want to, and you, as long as you are a Democrat and you are named Clinton, then you don't have to worry about being held to the same standard as everyone else. So they're just like, we're not going to come. And so then Comer kicked it to vote on contempt of Congress. Now, what he's recently revealed is what he referred to as a ridiculous offer by the Clintons on an unofficial meeting. In a post on X, Comer stated that the latest demands by the Clintons, quote, make clear they believe their last name entitles them to special treatment. Well, so far it has. I mean, I got to, in some capacity, defend the Clintons. They're not living in la-la land here. Increasingly, it's Republicans that appear to live in a fantasy world. They're like, well, who do they think they are? Why do they think they can get away? Because they always do. Many times because Republicans who have the power to do something choose not to. I mean, you think about it, even in reality, Trump made the deliberate decision during his first term not to go after her. He told the Department of Justice, don't do it. Now, if you're Hillary Clinton and even Donald Trump gives you a pass because he just, didn't feel there was much to gain out of it, you can see how it is that the Clintons just think that they don't have to abide by these rules. Comer went on to post, facing contempt of Congress, the Clintons' lawyers made an untenable offer that I travel to New York for a conversation with President Clinton only. No official transcript would be recorded, and other members of Congress would be barred from participating. I have rejected the Clintons' ridiculous offer. Well, yeah, I would hope so. He went on to say the Clintons' latest demands make clear they believe their last name entitles them to special treatment. The House Oversight Committee's bipartisan subpoena require the Clintons to appear for depositions that are under oath and transcribed. Former President Clinton has a documented history of parsing language to evade questions, respond falsely under oath, and was impeached and suspended from the practice of law as a result, which is all accurate. Comer's post continued in part, the absence of an official transcript is an indefensible demand that is insulting to the American people who demand answers about Epstein's crimes. As part of our investigation, the House Oversight Committee has released transcripts of interviews with former U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr and former U.S. Secretary of Labor Alex Acosta, which has provided much-needed transparency to the public. Without a formal record, Americans would be left to rely on competing accounts of what was said. Former Secretary Clinton's on-the-record testimony is necessary for the committee's investigation given her knowledge from her time as Secretary of State of the federal government's work to counter international sex trafficking rings, her personal knowledge of Miss Maxwell, and her family's relationship with Mr. Epstein. Now, I would again note, for all of the people who claim that they're so concerned of a cover-up, and accuse the Trump administration of covering things up, which as much as Pam Bondi has bungled things, none of this would even be occurring if it weren't for Donald Trump. They're oddly silent on the Clintons' refusal to go on the record or to answer questions about their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. It's my understanding that that's proof of guilt. That's the way that the left has been telling it lately, anyhow. Weather in a moment. Now, the latest news.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see partly sunny skies with a high near 47. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 22. For your Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 46. And for Friday, mostly cloudy with a high near 24. And I do also want to mention that a winter storm watch is in effect from Friday afternoon through late Saturday night. That is for counties south of 44. That chance of snow on Friday will start around 6:30 p.m.
And we currently, barring that getting moved up, currently have scheduled a happy hour at Vineyard Market on Friday from 4 to 6. So we'll hope that you'll come out and join us. Before you got to huddle in. But like I said, if for some reason that wintry weather looks like it's going to hit us earlier, we certainly don't want to encourage you to come out if it's going to be potentially dangerous. So we'll keep you updated. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll play it by ear, as they say. regarding the Clintons' apparent cover-up with their refusal to comply with congressional subpoenas to answer questions regarding Epstein. Of course, refusal to comply with the subpoena landed, a Republican in prison for a few months for that. It's just one of the differences between being a Republican and being a Democrat. Steve Bannon, you go to prison. You're the Clintons, you're just like, whatever. One of the text messages in the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line saying, if I was Hillary, I'd go to Congress, throw Bill under the bus. You think everything, well, on one hand, you think everything that he put her through, but man, behind closed doors, every account, even people who have long been champions of hers politically, she is just a complete, total nightmare of a Nazi. And just insane. And so, I think that they both give it as well as they get it. If I was Hillary, I would go to Congress, throw Bill under the bus, and use it as a platform to launch a run for the presidency. The only thing that could stop the success of that would be if Bill had dirt on her.
Oh, he does.
Yeah. It's such a weird thing. You wonder if, like, on one hand, it was a marriage of political convenience, and it's even been said that part of the reason, this has been written, again, by people who are supporters of theirs, that one of the reasons she hitched her wagon to him is she knew he would be successful politically, and so she was going to try to ride his coattails, which is such a great story of a strong, trailblazing woman. To rely on a man to get you there. But nonetheless, that's what Hillary Clinton did. And you wonder but at some point, in their own sick, twisted way, do they really love each other? Because what do they have to gain from one another any longer at this point? Other than, I guess, you just get used to the relationship. Man, what a just toxic relationship. Now, speaking of dirt, where's Joe Biden's book?
Yeah.
Where's that book?
Joe Biden book.
Yeah, it was last summer. He got a $10 million advance, if I recall correctly, and there was a New York Times piece where he said he was focused like hell on it. I mean, he was working as hard to get that book written as quickly as possible, and I don't hear anything about it. And wasn't Jill, or was she going to be part of that book or write a separate book?
I think she was writing a separate book.
Yeah, where's that book? I'd really. Are they waiting until the presidential election? Maybe for leverage purposes to maybe leave certain things out about certain people if they get certain assurances about certain jobs for certain, that sort of thing. Are they going to try to hold out for that because they don't have any revenue source? The only thing of financial value that the Bidens have ever provided is corrupt access, and that's gone. And Biden has lived his entire adult life playing that game, and Joe Biden has as well. When that's the only way you know how to operate, you think, okay, so what are they doing now? What is the game? We mentioned Shapiro's book out. He, of course, was the Jewish governor of Pennsylvania that was the no-brainer pick for Kamala Harris as VP, and increasingly he's blowing the whistle on the anti-Semitism in the Democrat Party and her campaign demanding to know if he was a double agent for Israel. It's like, can you get more, more brazen? It's crazy how openly anti-Semitic the Democratic Party has become. Gavin Newsom is making news, and we're going to play the audio later. He's such a tool. He's such a poser. He's over in Davos, and he was talking to reporters, and he was scolding other countries for not being against the United States. Now, this is a guy who wants to be president of the United States. And he is scolding other countries for complying with some of the desires Donald Trump has for the United States. Now, make sense of that. Tell me now the Democrats aren't anti-America. I don't know how much more anti-American you can get than that. At the same time, increasingly, his state is a living, breathing example of why it is that Gavin Newsom would be an absolute disaster as president. And some of that was revealed by Dr. Oz recently. And we're going to take a break, and I want to play some audio in which they've discovered, they're saying that the taxpayer fraud in California is going to put Minneapolis to shame, Minnesota to shame. And what they evidently discovered is that the number of people that are being transferred to hospice care in California is about 7 times the average rate of everywhere else in this country. And so they decided to try to figure out why this is. And Oz explains that, and it is a sick reason. So I'm going to play that audio coming up here. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Before traffic here, Pinnaker Honda. Incredible deals, whether lease or purchase is your fave. The 2026 Honda HR-V, 2.49% APR for 48 months. The 26 Honda Civic Sedan LX, the lease for $199 a month. The 26 Honda CR-V LX, all-wheel drive, as low as $389 a month. And with the Ridgeline, want to go the pickup truck route, 26 Honda Ridgeline, 3.99% APR or $1,500 sales credit. And the Certified Dream Deal sales event happening now with rates as low as 1.49% for select certified pre-owned vehicles. And I've mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again. The great thing about buying this earlier in the year is you don't have to pay your personal property taxes on the vehicle for like a whole almost 2 years, because as you know, when you have to report to the government what property you own so they can take more money from you, they ask what vehicles you owned as of January 1st. And so whatever vehicle you buy today or tomorrow or the next day won't be listed for the purposes of taking money from you until another year from the end of this year. You feel like you're kind of getting away with something a little bit. Pinnaker Honda, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see partly sunny skies with a high near 47. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 22. For your Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 46. And taking a look at Friday, mostly cloudy with a high near 24.
A lot of focus, for good reason, on all of the fraud in Minnesota, the billions of dollars that has been stolen. And you notice, I just need to point this out because this is across the spectrum. We don't hear about the people who are supposed to get that money. Anytime there was a story about $64,000 cut from Doge, we'd hear that's going to result in 28 people dying because that money was going to go to vaccines in some village in Zimbabwe, and without it, they're going to have people that die of cholera and whatever else. They'd always tag some number. Because when the dollars aren't there because of Republicans, we hear about how negative that's going to be on the people who are supposed to get those dollars. Yet the billions and billions of dollars that did not go to the intended recipients, what of those people? Do we not care about them? Or was the money not needed in the first place? It's got to be one of two. You notice how little the Democrats care about the, quote, victims, the people who had the money stolen from them? The autistic Somali kids? The children who desperately needed daycare, which, according to the left, really helps advance young people to go out into the world, and they cite all sorts of fake studies that claim that you're more likely to be successful in life if you have that early child care experience. What of all of those people? No harm done to them. Isn't that amazing? There are reports that California is going to and has put Minnesota to shame when it comes to fraud. One of the areas is when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid. And Dr. Oz did an interview on this, and he talked about this quick discussion here. He's talking about how they noticed in California the rate at which people were being assigned to hospice is dramatically higher than the rest of the country. And then their attempt to discover why that is.
They realized that they could pay doctors to move people into hospice. The hospice is designed for the last 6 months of your life. It means you're going to die. These hospice programs are created when the most common reason that you'd enter it is cancer. But these days, not everyone with cancer dies, but also you're putting a lot of people with Alzheimer's and other conditions in there. So it became a little harder to police whether people are going into hospice. But what happens if 100% of the people in hospice survive 6 months? Like, nobody dies. And that happens
Doesn't sound like hospice.
Doesn't sound like hospice.
Right.
Doctors are being paid to send people inappropriately to hospice. Now, that's a problem, Jan, because if you're put into hospice, you actually give up the rest of your healthcare protection. You no longer get traditional Medicare benefits because you're in hospice, you're dying. So we're not going to pay all these extra expenses for things that aren't going to benefit you because you've decided to pull back. Voluntarily, you've decided that you're not going to go out there and try to get everything done for you possible to help you live longer. You've made peace with the end. But people are put on hospice who don't know it. They don't realize it. And so now they don't have access to regular Medicare anymore. So people are dying because they can't get care because they were falsely tricked into being on hospice. Now, that's a major concern for me. But then I began to look into how this could possibly happen. How is it that we've gotten 7 times more hospice in California over the last several years? Do we have 7 times more people dying? Like, what's going on here? And you begin to realize it's systemic fraud. Everyone decided not to do anything about this. We're not going to look at it. It's too painful, too difficult. Maybe some groups may benefit financially from not checking into this. The doctors are getting engaged so much in the hospice that it's beginning to undermine basic ethos of the healthcare profession.
Ain't government-run healthcare grand. So what he explained there is occurring is the government system set up is financially incentivizing doctors to take people and transfer them to hospice care. And because of that financial incentive, people who aren't really candidates for hospice care are being transferred there. This is why California has 7 times more people in hospice care than the rest of the country. And the kicker is, when that happens, Medicaid, Medicare, whatever, all of those payments for life-saving drugs, life-saving therapies, the things that might save the patient or allow them to live a longer life in some sort of meaningful way, it gets cut off. Because the government has deemed that you are in hospice, which means there's nothing that can be done for you. And as Dr. Oz noted, many of these poor people out in California have no idea that this has even happened to them. They have no idea. You've got government incentivizing people who otherwise might still have a chance to live a period of time that is significant, just being shoveled off to hospice to slowly die, all in the name of money. And it's not the evil capitalist. You see, this is the downside of government getting to make these decisions, because do you think any of these people will be held accountable? If you had a system that was a true free market system, as the United States did once upon a time when it comes to medicine, and private industry did that, people would go to prison. And that particular company that was responsible for it would end up either collapsing, or they would have massive payouts. There'd be a number of different venues. But because it would be a free market system with competition and different companies competing for those consumers, there would be numerous other options for them, and that would cease to exist. But when it's government doing, what are you going to do? Especially when Gavin Newsom, who's governor of that state, is running for president. You think he really wants this highlighted? Or do you think it will benefit him and the Democrats who run the state to cover it up? To claim that it's just the Trump administration trying to cause trouble, and then Gavin Newsom's going to stand up there and say he won't be bullied and he won't be intimidated. Meanwhile, people are having their lives taken from them. Is this the compassion that we hear so much about from government-run medicine? Is this the compassion that we hear Democrats constantly talking about? We saw this a similar approach with Cuomo in New York, in which, for financial purposes, shoveling people with COVID into nursing homes, which resulted unnecessarily in Lord knows how many people. I know there was a count. I mean, it was thousands and thousands of elderly people dying before they otherwise would have, killing them off for money. Because in the hospitals, you got so much money in New York City. I know it wasn't the only place, but in New York, you got bonus cash for every COVID patient. Well, the problem was the beds were full. So what do? Well, you get that bonus check, cram them into a nursing home so you open up a bed, and then get a new COVID patient in there so you get more bonus money. The left has a history of shoveling people to their death for cash. We saw it with COVID. And what we're discovering now, as Dr. Oz was explaining, that this appears to be common practice out in California for people who don't need to be in hospice but are being shoveled there, then cut off from everything else that would be, life-saving or life-extending measures, all for money. Thank goodness we got the greed of capitalism out of it. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Regarding the states, we see this in particular where Democrats are in charge. COVID, Cuomo, shoveling COVID patients out of hospitals into nursing homes to get more bonus cash, which of course would result in nursing home residents dying earlier than they otherwise would have. And now being discovered out in California, they are shoveling people who are not hospice candidates into hospice care at a rate 7 times higher than the rest of the country because they get financially incentivized for it. And that also then cuts them off from any Medicaid or Medicare treatments that they would otherwise get. So it's government signing a death sentence. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. It's a slow version of MAID. Now, MAID is the euthanasia program in Canada. Medical assisted death. And Canada has decided about 10 years ago, cut past all the theatrics and just get right to the point and just start killing patients off. Telling them, if you're sad or you're frustrated because you can't get in to see your doctor, we can just go ahead and off you. Now, you might be thinking, because anytime you hear people present the idea of the government killing off its citizens in the name of compassion, they present these extremely rare examples. And it'll be some extremely rare disease that's so painful and awful and quality of life, and they find these examples that are seemingly so rare, you assume that the numbers are also going to be rare in terms of how many they kill off. In Canada last year, they killed off more than 16,000 of their citizens under the program. 16,000 last year. And since the program began, I think, again, it was around a decade ago, over 75,000 human beings they've killed off. And by the way, being depressed is a green light for this. In fact, there is a story right now about a Canadian actress, comedian, who has been given the green light to be offed by the government because she has depression. So the Canadian government's assessment of human value is that you are of a greater, that your life isn't worth saving. It's not worth trying. Oh, you don't think your life, particularly for a person who is a depressed individual that feels as if their life isn't worth saving, the compassionate socialized medicine answer to that is, yeah, you're probably right. There was this story, in fact, Glenn Beck, there was a gal in Canada who had some sort of disorder that caused great abdominal pain. And because of socialized medicine, couldn't get in to see a specialist. Tried and tried and tried and tried, and I'm sorry. No options because, they don't have a free market system. There's no competition. But you know what they did offer to do? Kill her. They said, we'll go ahead and off you if you want. We can provide that service. Now, Glenn Beck found out about it and, paid for her to get, because here in the United States, she was able to get the specialist visit, and I think there was a procedure that was involved, and he covered the cost of it. There was a court case recently in Canada. Father, autistic daughter, I believe. I want to say she was in her 20s. Autistic. Felt out of sorts as somebody with autism, felt that her life isn't worth living, suffers from emotional issues. And decided that, life isn't worth living. The government said, oh, we can help you with that. The father went to court to try, arguing that, listen, she is not in her right mind. She has real emotional problems. And the government's like, yeah, you know what? Not worth it. She's worth more dead than alive to us. This is what we're told is a compassionate version of healthcare. Offing people that are too expensive, that are too much of a hassle. How do you get your wait time down? Well, you just eliminate the number of people existing that are sick. Kill them off. 16,000 last year alone. And so the person who texted in that, this is just a slower version of this policy in Canada, that's accurate. Killing off people, save money, improve your numbers, improve your stats. Got your little charts and figures. Oh, the wait time in an emergency room went down this much, that. Well, of course, you killed off a significant portion of the sick population. That helps. I guess Canada could take the miraculous step of curing all diseases by just eliminating anyone and everyone that ever goes to see a doctor. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. Josh with the Pyramid Roofing Company joined us on Friday out at Scramblers. And one of the things that he mentioned is that right now is a great time for a roof inspection. And a lot of people think, oh, well, it's winter. You now have to wait until spring to tackle all of that roof maintenance. And that is not the case. Josh explained that, yes, it does have to be a certain temperature to install a roof, but it can be done. And winter is actually one of the best seasons to tackle roof repairs. You can experience a shorter wait time, and you can sometimes even snag yourself a deal. So if you've been putting off repairs, just call Josh and have him come out for that free roof inspection, and he'll help you come up with the best plan for you and your home. Now, you can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
All right. So, barring weather getting real crazy, Friday we're going to have a happy hour, 4 to 6 at Vineyard Market, and so it'll be a great way to definitely kick off a weekend if you're going to be hunkering down, as weather indicates that may be the case. A few days of doing that, so last chance to socialize for a couple of days at least, and all the stocking up stuff that you may want to do. Ozarks First had this story that is, on one hand, it's a little bit crazy, but on the other hand, it's the sort of thing that just, I don't know, anymore seems to happen. There was this couple in Walnut Grove, and I guess the woman, according to the probable cause statement, she woke up and found her back door standing open and a container of pulled pork on the kitchen counter, completely empty. Did you see this story?
Mm-mm.
And so they have home surveillance footage, and thought, well, I'll just go check out the home surveillance footage, because that's kind of like, that would just be so
what's
weird.
going on here?
Yeah, that would be such a weird feeling, because it means one of two things. Either your house is haunted, or somebody came in your house while you were sleeping. The video, she told police, showed a man sitting on the couple's porch late the previous night, apparently charging his phone before letting himself inside through the back door.
Oh, how creepy.
Yeah. He was inside the home for about 25 minutes while the homeowners slept. The statement says the footage appeared to show the man eating the pulled pork. I mean, listen, yes, this is creepy. This is it gives you such a sense of unsettledness. But at the same time, I would be thinking, I'm kind of glad that that's all he wanted was a snack.
Just the pulled pork.
The woman told police the burglar left behind what appeared to be, so this is the other crazy part. He left behind a backpack that had all sorts of documents in it that allowed police to easily find the guy.
Uh-huh.
The woman told police the burglar left behind what appeared to be a girl's backpack on the porch. An officer found the bag, described as black, white, and purple, containing several charging cords, a black lighter, and a teal phone case. Inside the backpack, police said, was a served order of protection listing the individual as the respondent. This is the guy that would be arrested. His name's Josh Anthony Peacock. He was born in 1977 of Springfield. And so in the backpack was a served order of protection listing him as the respondent. Investigators compared photos associated with the court order to the home surveillance footage and said Peacock matched the man seen entering and leaving the residence. He's currently being held in Greene County Jail with a $15,000 bond set after a warrant was served for his arrest. If convicted, he faces up to 15 years in prison. Now, listen, I'm not going to argue against that, but it's just, you see these stories about somebody that kills someone in a drunk driving accident and they get off on probation, but you could face 15 years in prison for going into somebody's house and eating their leftovers. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that means, that the person who went into someone's home and ate their food while they were sleeping doesn't deserve that sentence, but it just seems like we have this real uneven sense of what certainly deserves a great deal of punishment versus other things. I mean, you see these, rape cases, child molestation cases, and sometimes they do have the book thrown at them. But sometimes, it's just a couple of years or so, and I'm sure this person won't actually serve the 15 years, but I don't know, it just seems a little bit out of whack. The one thing that I'm surprised that usually, or at least sometimes, a story like this has at the end of it, you know what it is? Police are unsure if alcohol or substance abuse was involved, because it sounds like the sort of thing a person who's not in their right mind would do. Just check the back door, go in, and get in the refrigerator and eat some food. I wonder if he knew they were there or if he thought they weren't. Can you imagine if they woke up?
That'd be so scary.
That would be pretty scary. I would not care for that at all. Hey, I want to mention here, as we're getting ready to roll into the third hour, talking about the fraud that has been discovered in California and how they are financially incentivizing the system to shove people into hospice that really aren't ready to be in hospice. And the real downside to that is that cuts off all medical treatment other than just helping you die. And Dr. Oz noted that they found that in California, 7 times the rate of the rest of the country, that they are shoveling people into hospice care. And government making decisions for your health, government making decisions for life or death. Trust me, 1,000 times over. When it really gets down to it, if shoveling you to an early death means saving some, dollars, they'll shovel it to all the fraud in the world. They will millions and millions of dollars go to Somalis and drug lords, but man, if it comes down to you and you've paid your taxes your whole life, they will cut you off as soon as they can. The best that you can do is make sure you have legal protection, particularly when it comes to people that can make those medical decisions for you, that have medical power of attorney to step in and tell a hospital, I have the documentation. You're not making this decision. I am. Ozarks Elder Law can make sure that you are legally equipped to have any and all legal protections that you can have, but you've got to get it done. Consultations free, 10 area locations, and they'll tell you up front this is what it'll cost to have it done, plus anything else that you may need when it comes to protecting you and your family in these particular situations. OzarksElderLaw.com, also under Nick's endorsements. KSGF.com. Springfield's Talk 1041, and welcome. My name is Nick Reed. We are on Facebook Live, Springfield's Talk 1041. You can find us there, streaming live at KSGF.com, the KSGF app, and any of the show you miss, podcast versions at those locations, plus Spotify, iTunes. Nationwide walkout drew thousands into the streets. Well, not in any one area necessarily, but a dozen here and a dozen there. Now, apparently there's another one scheduled coming up because these have such a tremendous impact on things. There is a January 23rd walkout. It's an anti-ICE protest. And a lot of it really is around Minneapolis, which increasingly is just a third world country that randomly picks which laws to enforce. I would just, I would love to see police announcing in Minneapolis other laws that they'll like. Okay, we're picking and choosing what laws we enforce. All right, we're gonna quit doing home invasions, maybe rape. Yeah, we'll just quit. Let's just quit investigating that one. Let's just no longer. I mean, it can't only be. Now, when it comes to, we should say, since December, 3,000 of the illegals that have been rounded up, I think it was 10,000, 3,000 of them specifically are rapists and convicted rapists, convicted murderers, and convicted child molesters, pedophiles. So the Democrats already do. If you're not here in the country legally, they support rapists being here, which is, you're the party of women, of course, right? I mean, nothing says compassion like, let's really fight for convicted rapists to be kept here in the United States of America, in our neighborhoods, walking amongst the women and child molesters. So if Democrats are going to protest against laws and the enforcement of laws that remove convicted murderers, rapists, and child molesters, is there really anything that's not fair game? I mean, burglary, I think that's an easy one. Just, hey, somebody's in my home. Please send help. You know what? Yeah, that's just a law we're not enforcing any longer. You can't do that. You have to. No, apparently not. That's not how things work anymore. So the nation wide walkout, which is, this is all that, it's virtue signaling. It's meaningless. It does nothing other than show support for murderers, rapists, and child molesters. And apparently in Springfield Central High School, with the help of some within the administration doing just that as well. What better cause? If you're a student and the school encourages you to protest against cheating the system, to protest against, enforcing the laws of the system, and encourages you to protest against the enforcement of rules and laws that, again, are put into place by Congress. This isn't a Donald Trump law. These are laws that Republicans and Democrats have voted on, that were signed into law. If the public school system, specifically Central High School, is facilitating students protest against enforcement of rules and laws, how can you expect students to follow your rules and laws? What about attendance policies? What about anti-bullying policies? What about rules regarding, bullying in the context of racism? And I mean, can they violate those rules? Can they protest against the enforcement of those rules? I mean, after all, the high school is couching it all as, hey, it's not about the issue. It's just free speech, and we'll always support free speech. Oh, really? We've got to get the latest news and a traffic update. I do want to talk about this a little bit because it is just everything that is wrong with education in this country, and it's dishonest. Once again, we saw this within the Springfield public schools, although I don't know that Central was involved. They may, I forget which schools were involved when it came to the walkout over gun control. And they masquerade it as not supporting them because it's a left-wing cause. No. No, it's just all about free speech. And we know that that's a lie. And so, unfortunately, you have people who are dishonest, encouraging students to protest against the enforcement of laws and rules that they don't like, and at the same time ignoring what could really truly be help if they wanted to offer it. To some degree, the upside of this, it's all empty calories. Virtue signaling does nothing. And you see the narcissism on display when you listen to the reasons they say that they do these things, and they have this overinflated sense of their own importance, which isn't a healthy thing. So there's a lot wrong with all of this. And then, of course, the media and social media acting as if, oh, they're just so brave. Really? Really? Being fawned over? Getting out of school early? Being treated like Rosa Parks? That's what we're considering bravery today? Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see partly sunny skies with a high near 47. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 22. For your Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 46. And taking a look at Friday, mostly cloudy with a high near 24. And I want to mention once again, we do have a winter storm watch in effect from Friday afternoon through late Saturday night for counties south of 44, and the National Weather Service says that chance for snow will start around 6:30 p.m. on Friday.
Central High School students walk out to show support for immigrants. Well, first off, and this is a news leader, that is an inaccurate headline. This is not about immigrants. This is about illegal immigrants. I mean, I'm going out on a limb here in my assessment that they walked out in conjunction with all of these other anti-ICE people whose job it is to deport people who are in this country illegally. So it's a misleading headline. Dishonest. It is the news leader. I mean, why is it so hard just to be honest? Why? What is the instinct here? To deliberately mislead people as to what is going on. Because you know what, if this were to show support for immigrants, how many of these students have gone to a naturalization ceremony in which people who have come to this country went through the process legally and actually became legal immigrants? How many of these students have done that? How many of these students have helped or volunteered to help or even reached out and said, hey, I'd really like to help people who want to be actual legal immigrants in this country, and I thought maybe we could help, if there's fundraising needed for study supplies or help connect them up with translators, or has any of those efforts, any of these students ever done anything like that? I'm going to guess the answer is no. You want to know why? Because you don't get treated like a princess and Rosa Parks and some sort of civil rights hero for doing that, and it actually takes some effort instead of getting out of school early. We see this all the time with people on the left. The extent to which they want to help people is getting out of work, getting out of class early, getting together, hanging out with friends, and socializing while you're on the side of the road holding a sign. But if you offer up the idea of actually doing meaningful things to help people who are legal immigrants or want to become legal immigrants in this country, they're nowhere to be found. That's too hard. That's too much effort, see. Every year, tens to hundreds of thousands of people in this country become legal immigrants. They work hard at it. They follow the rules. They do what the rest of us are expected to do. Fill out paperwork when it's necessary. And is it too much? Is it too complicated? Maybe. But some people argue what you have to go through in order to get your license plate renewed with inspection and insurance, and you got to do this and that is too much. We don't get to just say, I'm not going to do it. Just this past October, there was a naturalization ceremony scheduled at Juanita K. It was canceled because Democrats voted to shut down the government. But it happens right here in Springfield all the time. We've talked about that she is in Texas now. But Katie, who was employed here for years. She was legally here, working, and worked to become a U.S. citizen, and we helped her out. We did it on air to a degree. We had fun quizzes and stuff, and part of the reason was to highlight the fact that there is a pathway to citizenship because people take it. And what we did, and again, albeit for, it served a number of different purposes, but was actually helpful and meaningful to an immigrant. It wasn't I'm going to walk out of work. Yeah, I'll really show them. The level of self-importance in which these people make it all about them. Look at me. Look at me walking out of, oh, I'm so brave. No, you're not. You're having fun, and it does nothing More than 100 Central High students gathered in front of their school this afternoon to show support for immigrant community members in the form of a peaceful walkout during the end of their school day. Protesters with the Southern Missouri Immigration Alliance and the parents of student organizers were also present, offering support during the protest. 3 students, including sophomores, spoke during the short assembly. One of the students saying, "Immigrants help build our country." Said this during an interview with Springfield news outlets after the school day ended. "Everybody belongs on this land, no matter who they are." Well, that's actually not true. In fact, that is stupid. I want to make sure that everybody is able to live their lives. Well, they are. Simply because we have rules and immigration laws like every other country in the world does, doesn't mean that they can't, quote, live their lives. Now, I don't blame these students. They've been brainwashed, and I don't think they're probably at the point yet where they have actually been introduced to the real world and to the facts of what's going on. It wouldn't surprise me if these students are so poorly educated, they don't even know that people become legal immigrants in this country, let alone get sworn in right here in Springfield. You know, these high schools, and like I mentioned, a lot of times the naturalization ceremonies happen on university campuses. They ought to happen in high school gymnasiums and have assemblies for that, instead of assemblies encouraging lawlessness. I mean, it's beyond me the missed education opportunities that we have in this country, and the ability to actually watch people get sworn in and become American citizens. For many of them, aside from maybe, getting married, falling in love, and having children, the single greatest moment in their lives. And you've got these high schools and middle schools that are populated with kids that have no idea these things actually even happen. Nope, they think immigrants, they just get shot and drug off and disappeared. It is a complete and utter failure of the education system in this country. I mean, it seems like such a no-brainer to me. I can't believe no high school in this country has offered to be a location for something like that. And there may be high school, but it's just the detachment from that. We spend so much flippin' time focused on the people who don't respect our laws, so much time on the people who want to cheat the system and leapfrog over those who come here legally, but then the ones who actually do it legally, we're like, oh, well, what, it's some ceremony somewhere. That's no interest to me. What does it say about you? That you have all the interest in the world to protest against the deportation of convicted rapists, but no interest in attending an actual naturalization ceremony for people who came here legally. I wanted to take part in something, said one of the students, but I knew obviously walking out of class has consequences. Well, we can't have any sacrifice, of course. I talked with a few of my friends to organize something along the lines of a school-related protest on school property. To do that, the student and her friends worked with the administrators to get permission and arrange the protest. She said she was very thankful for their support in greenlighting the student protest, which had a message she considers imperative to share, because God knows no one knows about this debate. This is the other aspect of it. There's so much about this. We just have to make sure people know. Oh, you really think that you're the one who is providing that message? Do you think until you decided to speak out with your imperative message, there were unaware people, that you have somehow enlightened people who are unaware about this debate? Quote, this is a message that transcends less than 20 minutes of class. This is a message that goes beyond doing a quick arts and crafts or learning what the mitochondria is in biology. It's such a strong message that really needs to be heard beyond these 20, 30 minutes of class. Again, this idea, and this is the narcissism, that if not for me, the world will not know. Everyone knows. What would we do without these students? According to a statement sent by Teresa Bledsoe, communication director for Springfield Public Schools, the district is committed to allowing students the ability to exercise their First Amendment rights. Well, can we please get some conservative messaging? How about a pro-ICE protection rally? How about we have students walk out and get the full support under the banner of the First Amendment from the Springfield Public School District to walk out and to have an assembly thanking those in law enforcement, thanking those in border security for making life safer for law-abiding citizens while removing murderers and rapists off the street and encouraging people not to attack them. Can we do that? Oh, we don't care about those people. They're just target practice in your SUV. So you've got, of course, a school district that is helping facilitate liberal activism under the guise of First Amendment. And we know that because we know if this were a pro-life rally or we know it was, anything that was considered pro-Trump or pro-America, well, that wouldn't really count as First Amendment. We know that. These people are dishonest. But I just get increasingly aggravated when there are people in this country who could use some actual meaningful support, who are trying to do it legally, and they get nothing. All the attention goes to the cheaters and the lawbreakers. Don't tell me you care about immigrants. You care about feeling like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr., and you feel like wanting to be patted on the back and being on the news and have everyone praise and like you for standing up and delivering some message that you've convinced yourself the world would not be aware of if it weren't for you as the messenger. That's just reality. And I know it may sound harsh, and I know it may sound cruel, but these empty calories of virtue signaling that continue to get praised are a benefit to no one.
Springfield Stock 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see partly sunny skies with a high near 47. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 22. For your Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 46. And taking a look at Friday, mostly cloudy with a high near 24.
This Gavin Newsom thing. This guy is such an idiot. And I don't know that Democrats can argue that they are not the party of being against America when you have these people that are out there. He's criticizing foreign countries that make deals with the president of the United States. And I'll play the audio. He's out there at Davos. He's obviously he's running for president, even though he's coy about that and claiming that he's long claimed that that's not anything he's really necessarily interested. But we all know it's obvious. It's just icky and gross, as is he. He's a sleazeball, and here he is out there on foreign land talking to foreign reporters.
They realized that they could pay doctors.
Sorry, wrong audio. Let me get this correct. Oh, boy.
Get it together.
You give a message for Europeans who are concerned about the messages from the White House around Greenland this week.
Yeah, it's time to fuck up. It's time to get serious and stop being complicit. It's time to stand tall and firm, have a backbone. I've seen this in the United States. Supine Congress playing both sides. Say one thing on a text or a tweet, another publicly. It's time to have principles. It's time to stand tall and strong.
Does that mean
It's time to stand united. You make that determination. I don't make that determination.
When you say standing tall, what do you
Collectively,
mean?
I can't take this complicity. People rolling over. I should have brought a bunch of knee pads for all the world leaders. Handing out crowns and this is pathetic. Nobel Prizes, they're being given away. It's just pathetic.
Right, and he goes on. I'll stop there as he managed to throw the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize in there as well. He's literally insulting other world leaders because they are not ganging up against the United States of America. This is what his problem is that they are complicit in behind the scenes working with Donald Trump to get some of these issues resolved. He's on foreign soil. He is scolding. I love this because one of the reasons we're told that we're supposed to hate Donald Trump is that he doesn't have respect for foreign leaders and that he insults them. Well, this is what Gavin Newsom's doing. But he's not doing it because they are refusing to work with the United States. He's scolding them and insulting them because they aren't joining forces against us. Now listen. I'm not saying that Gavin Newsom has to endorse what Donald Trump's doing, but here's how a person that's not anti-American answers this question. The president and I don't agree on a lot of things, and we certainly don't agree on our approach in dealing with our friends and our neighbors. But one thing that we do agree on is that America is a great country, and we want to see the best for it. And I hope that all of this noise aside, we are able to all come together and work on some sort of deal to make sure that not only is the national security of the United States a number one priority, but also that of NATO, because that's ultimately what's important. That is the answer you give. You don't dog on countries for trying to work together in order to get on the same page when it comes to NATO and when it comes to the national security of this country. And then he He makes a reference to I should have brought knee pads, and we all know what that means. He's suggesting that these people are on their knees performing a sex act on Donald Trump, and he threw in there the recent female recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, saying that, for her, he should have brought the knee pads because here she's giving away her Nobel Peace Prize to Donald Trump. I think about what that recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize has put on the line in terms of her own security and her own life. And this piece of trash, Gavin Newsom, with a silver spoon born in his mouth, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, running a state into the ground. And he has the audacity to call her out and to suggest she should be on her knees, or that she is on her knees performing a sex act on Donald Trump, figuratively. I'm sure we'll hear from all of the people on the left that love to call out misogyny. They will be all over Gavin Newsom for that any moment. There's nothing about what he said or his approach that can be justified. I don't care how much you hate Trump. This is the corner that the left kind of backs himself into. So what is the argument here? Well, I mean, yes, we hate Trump. It's because, he needs to have more respect for our allies, like Gavin Newsom just did. That's the respect you're talking about. Whose side is Gavin Newsom on there? He's insulting other world leaders. He's encouraging them to be against the United States of America. The only people left out of the equation are like Putin and other dictators. They're the only ones that he's not insulting or, The other thing about him and his decision to go overseas and encourage other countries to team up against the United States of America, and this may be incidental, but there's just something about it's just also like such a fake tough guy act. This is a guy that if you open hand slapped him across the face, he'd probably fall to the floor and tear up and look up in shock. And he just unbuttons that top button. It's all so gross. And unfortunately, it is just the sort of thing that liberal, particularly women, fall in love with. What a display. And then to declare that at this event, all of these other countries are an embarrassment because they're working with the United States. This guy, when he's president, how is he going to operate? I mean, what is he going to do? Clearly, he has a problem with the United States being a number one priority, and clearly he has a problem with the leaders of other countries, including our NATO allies, working with us on those priorities. So what is he going to do as president? Who are you going to be serving? I would suggest, based off your track record, your resume in California, and the way that the people have suffered there, it's probably not going to be the citizens of the United States. It'll be interesting to see. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you, Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. The cold is a-comin', and if your heating system is making odd noises, maybe it's unevenly heating your home, or maybe it's just constantly running and struggling to keep up, it may be time for maintenance or a service repair. And that's where Russell and Foreman Mechanical comes in. Now, the Foreman team, they've been around for over 35 years, so they know a thing or two about HVAC. They work on a variety of heating systems, and the best part is they will not try to upsell you or use scare tactics on you. If you would rather do a repair versus a replacement, they are going to work with you to the best of their ability. So if it is time to have the Foreman team out to your home, schedule your appointment before that cold really settles in. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. My brother-in-law passed his citizenship test right before Thanksgiving and still hasn't been sworn in. It isn't official until the ceremony, so it's impacting his work travel. I don't know if the delay is because he is in the LA area and things are hectic there, or if it's always so up in the air. I feel like somehow Newsom is responsible, but it seems like the least we could do is actually get these new citizens sworn in. Now, as I mentioned, and I don't know if this would be the same reason for the delay there, but there was a swearing-in ceremony to take place, I think it was 180K on the MSU campus at the end of October, and it got canceled because the Democrats had, they continued to shut down the government over, I don't remember what it was, what they wanted funded at the time. I think health care for illegal immigrants, ironically. So people... Again, isn't that not perfect? That was what that shutdown was over, because they wanted taxpayers to fund Obamacare for illegal immigrants, and among some other things, I'm sure, as well. And so here, people who came to this country legally, went through the process to become legal citizens, got that canceled because Democrats were prioritizing people who came into this country illegally. Now, again, I don't know if that is why the cancellation happened for that particular swearing in, but that is the reason that the swearing in got canceled at the time, or postponed, if you want to call it that, in Springfield. And listen, I'm a firm believer that anything that involves government can be improved. People will oftentimes argue in support of those who have come here illegally because it's too hard to come here legally. Well, again, it's a real pain in the butt to do my taxes. I don't get to say, so I'm not going to do it. Sometimes it's a pain in the butt to get all the paperwork and the inspections, and you got to get the tax, all of this proof to go get the driver's license. But I don't get to say, well, it's just too hard, so I don't have to drive legally. That's not how it works. I'm all for improving a system for those who want to come here legally. But this idea that because that system isn't as effective and efficient as it could be, that means that we should just let everyone violate the law. No. Medical school's pretty difficult, I understand. Should we just let anybody become a doctor that wants to be? Everybody just, without... It doesn't matter if they have any medical schooling or anything, because it's too hard. No. I also want to mention one other thing to some degree in that context. And we were talking in the 7 o'clock hour about government-run healthcare and how devastating it is, and how ultimately it makes people just items, human beings on a ledger, and government ends up shoveling people to early deaths in order to save money. We saw it in New York. It's currently happening in California when it comes to the financial incentive to shove people into hospice early and cut them off of potentially life-saving measures. Talked about Canada and their MAID program, medical assisted death. Last year alone, they killed off 16,000 people because, they couldn't get into doctor's appointments, or they were sad. And, it's money. It's easier that way. Just get rid of them. I'm not arguing that a private healthcare system is without problems, or when we were the best system in the world, and largely we still are there. We're barely clinging on to it. We're racing to the bottom with others. But prior to government really getting involved around the Johnson administration, when it was at its peak, and a doctor would come to your house and you could pay cash, that system still had problems. There is never a perfect system because you are dealing with human beings, and human beings have different ailments, they have different conditions, they have different desires. Some people are perfectly fine with aches and pains and don't feel the need to go to a doctor for it, while other people feel that they need to go to the doctor for aches and pains. We're all human beings, and so when you have human beings with different desires, different personal standards, and different ailments and different medical histories, you are going to have a tremendous number of variables in which not every single person is going to have the 100% aces across the board 5-star outcome that we would like. The question is, which system on the whole delivers the best? And a private system is one that has demonstrated beyond a doubt, it is the best system. And the more government gets involved and tries to micromanage and makes your medical decisions for you, like when you go to hospice care, the worse that it gets for the patient. That is very, very consistent. Even Democrats who told us Obamacare was going to be the great answer and it was going to improve everything, all now agree and even campaign on the fact that things are worse today than they were. Now, of course, the problem is their answer is let us continue to make the poor decisions and let us continue to double down and do more of the things that have made things worse, as opposed to looking at when things were better and going back and doing it that way. Because it's real easy to sell people the hope of wonderful tomorrows and nothing bad happens and you don't have to lift a finger. The problem is, of course, the results. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. We like to, whenever possible, really present you with the absolute best, and a number of our partners were able to do that. We are a station that is about providing information, and when we can do it, particularly from a local perspective, help you out, help them out. Everybody wins. We love to do it. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, is just the prime example of when all of that works, all the stars align. She is just the absolute best. And buying a home, selling a home is a big deal. And for a lot of people in the industry, it's all transactional, and they forget that the person they're dealing with or the family they're dealing with has emotional attachments oftentimes to the home, or maybe mom has finally passed and the childhood home that we grew up in, we have to sell off, and it's so much more than just signing some paperwork. But Emily Johnson, she gets that. And you really hear that in so many of the different reviews that people provide, detailed as they oftentimes are, about working with Emily Johnson. So whether it is buying or selling, if you want the absolute best, you want Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. I was going to share with you, and maybe I'll save it for tomorrow. There was a piece in Town Hall that lists just within 48 hours all of the tax increases that Democrats have introduced legislatively in Virginia as they have taken power. Just understand what's going on here. This is a party that ran on affordability. This is a political party that wants you to forget the years of Bidenflation and ignore the beginning of the turning around that has occurred under Donald Trump, and said, elect us, we will make it more affordable to live in Virginia. And they have a listing so long of different tax increases they are wanting to put on their citizens. I don't have time to go through them all. So, I mean, it did not take them but 48 hours to immediately work on ways to make it more expensive and less affordable to live in Virginia. You got to give it to them. It's almost as if they saw how quickly Donald Trump went to work when he got reelected, and they're like, you know what, we're going to answer that. It's just, against citizens, not for them. Glenn Beck's coming up next. I'm Nick Reed.